So this is my plan at 2:45 in the morning, is I have to make some beef jerky. And we make it out of hamburger. So I thought maybe I'd show you what I do. So I buy this seasoning mix. It's just a plain seasoning mix that I buy. And for 2 pounds, you put one of these and one of these. But I don't like it quite that strong, so I dilute it down. And because I'm going to do 2 packages, I have a Nesco 9-tray dehydrator. So I will do 3 pounds to a package. And in this case, because the Nesco takes up so much, or it has 9 trays on it, I'm going to do two sets, so 6 pounds of hamburger in this bowl. And the neighbor was telling me one day about using paint sticks to get my thickness correct, which never crossed my mind, but I thought, hey, let's give this a try. Can't sleep, so might as well. Planned to make the jerky this morning anyway, so might as well make it while I can't sleep. So this is what you start with, just the raw hamburger. And then you take and you mix all of this seasoning and the curing into it. And I'm going to have to go get a chair. So you take and you mix all of this stuff together, and you mix it really, really well. And now for those that don't have a dehydrator, some of the new stoves have a dehydrating section in the settings. Meat, when you dehydrate it, needs to be between 160 and 165. My stove doesn't go that low, otherwise I could use my stove. The lowest it goes is to 175. And at 175, when I dehydrated, I tried some tomatoes. When I dehydrated them, they almost were black when they were finished. They didn't burn, but they really didn't have a good flavor to them. I didn't like them. So if you got meat hamburger that you forgot in your freezer, or you gotta get it used up, try this, making hamburger jerky. It's really nice. Whoop, dropped a piece of meat on the floor. Man, this hamburger's cold this morning. I put it in the fridge to keep it, and it's nasty cold. Okay, so I got the hamburger all mixed up, and now I'm going to take and put it onto this here. And I have my paint stick set up. You take a piece of parchment paper and you lay it down, because really, seriously, cleaning this off the counter is an absolute nightmare. And then you put another piece of parchment paper on top of it. And you start rolling. Now, with the two pieces of parchment paper, when you're rolling it, it tends to wrinkle and stick. So it's like a pie, rolling a pie pastry. Roll it out a little bit, flip it over, pull it apart. See, it's all wrinkled up. It's easier to pull it apart at this stage than it is peeling it all off later. Alright, so there's the first one rolled out. And I leave it on the parchment paper to dehydrate it because I find it's so much, when you use hamburger, there's a lot of grease that falls through. And it's much easier for me to clean off the trays with parchment paper on them than it is without. So there's the first one, all rolled out. Now I just have 8 more to do. something else that you do, all I do, is I will score the sheets before I put them into the dehydrator, because otherwise they're just broken shards. Whereas this way, once I score them, then they break where I want them to break. And I just want small pieces, because the unfortunate thing, this stuff is usually so good that you just eat one piece after another. And that's not the healthiest thing to be doing. I had forgotten to score the other one, so I brought it back. Now I keep my dehydrator outside because it generates a fair amount of heat. I'm only doing it at 165, but in the summertime, any amount of heat that is unnecessary is heat you really don't need. So I have my dehydrator set up outside. Makes it much simpler to keep the house cool. So anyway, I will bring you back when I set them out into the dehydrator, because this is just the same thing. Roll them out, score them, stack them. Well, I thought I had enough hamburger thawed out for 9 trays. Apparently I only had enough hamburger thawed out for 6 trays. So I have some stock that I was making today, because we butchered a rooster, an old rooster today, so I was turning him into soup. And he's not deboned yet. It's been cooked, it's been on the stove for about 8 hours, I guess. All I did was throw cut the chicken all up and throw it into the pot, and then cover it with water and add salt. So now I'm just going to take the meat out of there, and I guess I'll go back to bed, because I can't do anything with the meat tonight because it'll be too hot. But then I'll just turn it into some dehydrated chicken in the morning. All right, I hope you guys have a good sleep. Bye. I'll see you later. So because I have I'm short 3 trays to go into the dehydrator, I had been cooking this chicken up for canned chicken and stock, and I thought, well, I would dehydrate it. So this is what is out of the pot, and that one there is one I've already taken the meat off of, and this is what I'm going to be putting into the dehydrator. I'm going to take and cut it into pieces just over 1/2 inch and put it onto the dehydrator today. So my doodad has quit. So you take the meat off the this is the breastbone. You take it off, you take all the fat and everything off, because you really don't want fat in the dehydrator, because it doesn't allow it to dry properly. So you take all the fat off of it. Oh, yeah, that's the right one. And then you just cook. Any chicken you cook, you put into the dehydrator, needs to be cooked first. It doesn't do well with uncooked chicken, because you run the risk of getting food poisoning because it takes so long. Beef is a little bit different, but chicken definitely has to be cooked. So does pork, and I have dehydrated both chicken and pork, and they're actually both really good. They turn out really crunchy. It's like the beef jerky. It dries like that. So this bird that I've got here that I had already cooked, it was a rooster that we had, and he was a nasty little bugger because I had to pay attention to where he was all the time, because when I wasn't looking, that's when that little bugger, he would jump at me, and his spurs were over 1.5 inches long, and if you can imagine something 1.5 inches long breaking down your leg, you pay attention to where he is. So, and surprisingly enough, you know, when you eat drumsticks, chicken drumsticks, there's always that muscle bone running through this meat. He doesn't have any. There's none of that muscle bone in here. It's all meat. Okay, so give me a second here, and I'll set up for cutting it and set it on the dehydrator. Alright, so this is my finished shredded meat. Now I'm going to cut it up into pieces. The dehydrator racks are about 3/4 inch apart. So you can't cut the pieces any bigger than that unless you can lay them down flat. Oh, there's a bunch of fat on it. I dehydrated some chicken the other day that I had in the freezer. It was already cooked and I was saving it for something else, but because we have a bunch of meat coming, we have half a beef coming in the end of September, and I've got about 25 turkeys that still haven't been sold. So I have to be able to get them into the freezer. So my goal, while Mel's in Ontario, is to get this freezer emptied. And because we live in a small space, I don't have a whole bunch of storage space for canning. And so dehydrating really works really well because it takes up a small space. This meat that I have here will fit into a canning jar. I'll just show you what one of the jars looks like. This is a whole chicken. This is a spaghetti sauce jar that you buy. You can just peel the wrapper off and it fits a regular lid. And that's a whole chicken sitting in there right now. So you can see how what the benefit is to shredding it. Now, when I dehydrated it the other day, I started off with pieces that were quite a bit bigger than this. And it shrunk down to this size. Like, can you imagine a whole chicken fitting in that jar? It's pretty amazing. So let's get back to this here. And when you're cutting it, you're paying attention to the fats and all that kind of stuff, because you really don't want it in there. It's just, I don't like it. So I try and make sure I don't get any into the So I'm going to put this onto one of the dehydrator trays. And because Mel doesn't like the dark meat, I do try and keep the dark meat and the white meat separate. So when I'm putting it on the tray, if I keep them separate on the tray, it's easy enough to separate them when they're dried. And most of the time I'm successful with keeping them separated, but sometimes I'm not. They don't dry any different. But you can see that the trays are not, the pieces of meat are quite small in comparison to the size of the tray. And I definitely managed to get it inside that 1/2 inch thickness, or 3/4 inch thickness. Anyway, I'll bring you back when I take them out to the dehydrator. Okay, so here is my 6 trays of beef jerky, hamburger jerky, that I did at 3 o'clock this morning. And here is my 3 trays of chicken that I'm going to put in. So apparently